A few years ago, there were these strange water and landscape phenomena that kept occurring all over the world in a relatively confined space of time. Phenomena such as landslips, sinkholes, and huge sandbars that were appearing pretty much overnight. In this video, I've put together 10 of these mysterious phenomena. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Carmen, and I like to dive into the abyss of those what the F moments in our universe, be it phenomena, nature anomalies, strange science, or just plain weird behavior. Welcome to my channel. In September 2018, a huge 300-metre hole appeared overnight on an Australian beach. The beach in question is located at Inskip Point, a scenic peninsula located in southeast Queensland, Australia. In an effort to calm worry about the collapsed section of the beach, local authorities categorised it as a near-shore landslip rather than a sinkhole. So they categorised it as a landslip merely to quash concern, not because that is what they feel it is. One article says, a continuing phenomenon is erasing the coastline. This is not the first time that a large sinkhole has been reported on this beach. Wait, I thought it wasn't a sinkhole. Never mind. It was only 5 years ago that a 150-metre wide, 3-metre deep crater appeared. And when the large space opened up, it took a caravan, a car, a camper trailer, and event tents along with it. It is caused by the undermining of part of the shoreline by tidal flow, waves, and currents. When this occurs below the waterline, the shoreline loses support and a section slides seaward, leaving a hole, the edges of which retrogress back towards the shore. By all indications, the large landslips witnessed are merely a result of naturally occurring phenomena and should be no cause for great alarm, although a modest space of only 400 metres exists between the three holes themselves. So basically, they don't really know what is causing these sinkholes. Sorry, I mean landslips, speaking of slips. We fly every day and it wasn't there yesterday, said a spokesperson of Rainbow Beach Helicopters. There seems to be mixed feelings about these events. Many reports are saying that this is normal, has always been this way, and they have managed to explain many of these events away. For example, due to the continuing rise of the sea level or winds. Yet many of the very same articles express surprise, and I see words such as unusual, rare, mysterious, and the word phenomenon appears quite frequently. These kinds of holes are called polynyas. The polynya in question opened 6 years ago, around 2017, in a relatively shallow area of water in the Weddell Sea. At its peak, it spanned roughly 30,000 square miles, about the size of Maine. These holes in the ice form thanks to Antarctic water circulation, reports Maddie Stone at Earther. Warm water rises towards the surface, melting the ice that sits atop the open ocean waters, creating the polynya window. Heat is released from the water through this opening, causing the now cooler water to sink. This circulation pushes more warm water towards the surface, which keeps the polynya open. Here's the thing, these polynyas usually form in coastal regions, towards the edge where it is warmer. But this is not what happened here. This hole is far from the coast, hundreds of kilometers in fact, and is deep in the ice pack, and according to scientists, must have been formed by some other process that is not understood. In other words, they have no idea how this hole was created. Apparently, it also has nothing to do with climate change. In 2014, The Independent wrote, "What are sinkholes, how do they form, and why are we seeing so many?" The UK seems to be suffering from a plague of sinkholes. In 1 month alone, a 15-foot hole opened up on the M2. A 30-feet crater swallowed a car in High Wycombe, and in Hemel Hempstead, homes were evacuated after a sinkhole 35 feet across opened up in a residential street. Meanwhile, in the US, an even bigger sinkhole, some 40 feet wide and 20 feet deep, swallowed up 8 rare cars in a Corvette museum. Other notable sinkholes include Cima Humboldt in Bolivia, a crater 314 meters deep and formed from extremely resistant sandstone. The Great Blue Hole, a perfectly round hole in the middle of an atoll which is 124 meters deep, and the Red Lake in Croatia, a 530-meter deep sinkhole with nearly vertical walls. Researchers aren't actually sure of the origins of many of these sinkholes, including the ones in Venezuela. Cave explorers stumbled upon a prehistoric forest at the bottom of a giant sinkhole in South China in 2022. Sinkholes such as these are also known in Chinese as Tian Keng, or Heavenly Pit. At 630 feet deep, the sinkhole would hide the Washington Monument and then some. The bottom of the pit holds an ancient forest spanning nearly 3 football fields in length, with trees towering over 100 feet high. And according to the Chinese government, it is one of 30 enormous sinkholes in the country. The sinkhole was discovered by cave explorers outside Pinga village in Leh County, South China's Huangxi Jiangsu Autonomous Region. Karst is a type of topography ideal for geological wonders like the sinkhole in Leh County, created by groundwater dissolving the limestone rock beneath the surface, according to the US Geological Survey. About 20% of the United States is made up of karst landscapes, including attractions such as Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico and Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. About 13% of China is covered by karst topography, according to NASA. The Derinkuyu Underground City is an ancient multi-level underground city in the Derinkuyu district in Nevşehir province, Turkey, extending to a depth of approximately 85 meters, or 279 feet. It is large enough to have sheltered as many as 20,000 people, together with their livestock and food stores. Discovered purely by accident in 1963, it is the largest excavated underground city in Turkey and is one of several underground complexes found throughout Cappadocia. These look very much like the prehistoric hypogeum chambers found on the island of Malta not long ago. More than 200 underground cities of at least 2 levels have been discovered in the area between Kayseri and Nevşehir. Some 40 of those include 3 or more levels. The underground city at Derinkuyu could be closed from the inside with large stone doors. Each floor could be closed off separately. The city had amenities found in other underground complexes across Cappadocia, such as wine and oil presses, stables, cellars, storage rooms, refectories, and chapels. Unique to the Derinkuyu complex and located on the 2nd floor is a spacious room with a barrel-vaulted ceiling. It has been reported that this room was used as a religious school, and the rooms to the left were studies. Starting between the 3rd and 4th levels are a series of vertical staircases, which lead to a cruciform church on the lowest 5th level. The large 55-metre (180 feet) ventilation shaft appears to have been used as a well. The shaft provided water to both the villages above and, if the outside world was not accessible, to those in hiding. I then discovered 2 beaches in Ireland within 6 miles of each other that had appeared and then reappeared. In Doag's case, the wind direction changed the hydrodynamics of the bay and may have washed in an offshore sandbank. But after a freak tide around Easter of 2017, hundreds of tons of sand were deposited around the area where the beach once stood, recreating the old 300-metre stretch of golden sand. Recalling the events of 1984, one person said, "Some big storms destroyed the beach. It was completely washed away, and 1984 was the last time the beach was there. So what, after 33 years it comes back?" At the bottom of this article is a very intriguing sentence. This article was amended on 10th of May 2017 to remove a reference to Achill Island being a peninsula. What made them think this island was a peninsula? When a beach gets unlucky and all of these factors come together, strong tides, abnormally high sea levels, a lack of seaweed, it can suddenly disappear. This is what happened to Doag in spring 1984 and had previously happened in a similar incident there in 1890. So what brought the beach back in 2017 and in 1927? Almost the same processes that stole it in the first place. Some of the conditions were identical. April has the highest tides of the year and low algal growth. However, this time the beach replenishment occurred during northerly winds. It's hard to say for sure where the sand has been for the past 33 years, but likely it was simply sitting on the seafloor some miles offshore and in adjoining bays, I'm sorry, what? Adjoining bays? Have you seen these bays? Some of them are really isolated and closed off from other bays. So the wind is able to transport sand from a bay around the corner and just plop it back to the bay it originally nicked the sand from in the first place. Ashleyham Bay Beach is only 6 miles from the previous beach, Doag. Dr. Kevin Lynch, a geographer at the National University of Ireland, Galway, told the Irish Times that returning beaches were nothing to do with climate change. With Ashleyham Bay, the beach disappeared 12 years ago and reappeared again in 2017, some 6 months after the neighbouring beach. So here we have 2 beaches on the same coastline within 6 miles of each other. One lost its sand 33 years ago, the other 12 years ago, but both returned around the same time in 2017. Porthleven Beach in Cornwall was washed away overnight in 2015 and then reappeared 3 years later. This is the opening statement to this article. A British beach which was stripped of all its sand overnight by a freak high tide for the first time in living memory has miraculously been restored. An oceanographer from Porthleven, Alan Jorgensen, said that he has never seen the level of sand so low in all his years in the village. He said, "I am sure it will come back in time, but I've never seen it like this before. It was a bit of a surprise, to be honest." Well, you and me both, mate. Coombe Martin Beach in Devon disappeared in 2013 after torrential rain washed away all the sand. One person said he had never seen anything like it. At Holsons Beach in Devon, a local said the continual storms have been eroding the shore like we've never seen before. This was at the bottom of the article. Climate irregularities are affecting many places around the globe, causing unusual manifestations and sometimes severe and quick changes. Holsons Beach is one example of a swift and drastic transformation. That's funny because another article from another beach said it had nothing to do with climate change. In September of this year, the Cala Barques beach in Cala San Vicente lost half its beach. The principal cause was the torrent stream. Fast-flowing water brought with it rocks and a great deal of vegetation that were deposited onto the beach. There is also a slight discrepancy here because some seem to think that the rocks which seem to appear once the sand is removed are actually rocks that were there beneath the sand and are subsequently revealed once the sand gets blown away. But some seem to think that the rocks are actually being transported. Live Science reports mysterious island that emerged off the coast of North Carolina overnight is gone once again, new satellite images reveal. Shelly Island, a sandbar that appeared seemingly overnight off the coast of Cape Point on Cape Hatteras National Seashore in 2017, has disappeared again, due to a series of punishing storms that battered the coast and redistributed the sand off the shoreline. It's not clear exactly why Shelly Island formed in the first place, but experts suspect that the conditions were just right in July of 2017, when winds and currents whipped sands from the Northern Barrier Islands towards the southern point of the Cape. Shelly Island was at its largest extent in August 2017, when it measured 27 acres. However, the most recent images show it has once again receded beneath the waves. Erosion may have been the culprit. Over the winter, a series of storms continued to chip away at the tiny piece left of the island. And by February, it was completely gone. Now, this is a science site, and even they think this is mysterious. Like I said, they don't really know what is causing this. However, in a NASA article, they say it is the natural movement of sediment that has built up a shoal island off the Outer Banks in Northern Carolina. In June 2017, National Geographic said this about the mysterious sandbar. This new formation is of a scale rarely seen. The crescent-shaped spit is close to a mile long. At its widest point, this island reaches a football field or more across. It's a hoss, said Danny Couch, 57, a local historian, tour guide and lifelong resident of nearby Hatteras Island. Every 10 to 15 years, we'll get something that's pretty dramatic, but this one is the largest one I've seen in my lifetime. A 10-foot cliff seemed to come out of nowhere on a beach at Nag's Head, North Carolina. So how did the face of the beach change so dramatically in such a short period of time? Experts say wind is to blame. They say extended periods of north and northeast winds can carve up a beach like this. It was also reported in August of this year that the beach is almost restored and that the erosion appears to be mostly gone. So a month later and 6 feet of sand has returned? Wow, and they're calling this erosion? In another article, experts speculate the cliff formed as a result of king tides. I've never seen the erosion to that degree. Unbelievable, someone said. The escarpment is believed to have been created by a phenomenon known as perigean spring tides, also called king tides, which happen when the moon is either new or full and is closest to the Earth, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. During such periods, extreme tides are created, higher than normal high tides and lower than normal low tides, according to NOAA. So 2 different articles, same event, 2 different causes. Wind and king tides, also known as perigean spring tides. And then we have a beach in California that collapsed. Carlsbad State Beach in December 2015. One local said, "I've lived here since 1995. I've never seen it do this before." I think beach erosion is not exactly a new thing, but it seems to have increased lately. And I guess on its own it doesn't really stick out so much, but when you add this to all the other beach phenomena that seems to have increased in the last few years, it certainly makes one wonder. And how can this be erosion? Isn't erosion where the beaches get eaten away over time and then completely disappear, never to come back again? Isn't that why they then step in and replace eroded beaches with artificial beaches? How can a beach erode overnight and then correct itself within weeks? In this article written in 2012, they talk about a small beach in New South Wales, Australia, that keeps disappearing and reappearing overnight. In May 2007, a large sand dump had turned Mackenzie's Bay into a beach. By November 2007, the beach was gone. What causes Mackenzie's Bay to turn into Mackenzie's Beach? It is linked to seasonal change, with the beach appearing when there is a low-pressure swell with an offshore wind. These are winter conditions. Greg Skilbeck, a sedimentary geologist from the University of Technology, Sydney, said the beach phenomenon occurred when waves swept sand onto the coast from nearby sandbars. It is a common occurrence for sand to end up on the shore during winter when you have increased wave energy. Dr. Rob Brander, a coastal geomorphologist from University of New South Wales, believes that what makes the Mackenzies come back is complex. Patterns of swell direction have a lot to do with it, but the amount of sand on our beaches is also linked to longer-term climatic cycles. The Daily Mail writes, rare phenomenon caused by Irma sucks the water from Bahama beaches. Firstly, if this is so rare, how come it happened all over the effing place? The article goes on to explain, extraordinary footage from the Bahamas shows the shoreline receding much farther than usual, exposing what is usually the ocean floor. Deputy weather editor of the Washington Post and meteorologist Angela Fritz explained that this may be the result of what she calls a hurricane bulge. In the center of the storm, pressure is very low, which draws water upward into itself. The same thing happened in Tampa Bay. According to the Daily Mail, many were concerned since receding shorelines that expose the ocean floor is often a sign a tsunami is approaching. However, Fritz said the water will not rush back rapidly. The International Tsunami Information Center notes on its website, when the sea drains away, to not investigate because this is a typical sign of an incoming tsunami. While it looks like a prelude to a tsunami, the bizarre sight is actually a byproduct of Hurricane Irma, reports the Washington Post. Basically, the storm was so powerful that it changed the shape of the ocean, sucking water from its surroundings into the core of the storm. National Weather Service meteorologist Ryan Rogers explained the phenomenon as a kind of reverse storm surge. When wind pushes water onto land, we get storm surge. What has happened in Tampa Bay is wind pushing water away from the shore. Time.com called this an eerie phenomenon that came as a result of the powerful hurricane. The center of the storm has low pressure that draws water upward, according to the Washington Post. Wayne Neely, a forecaster with the Bahamas Department of Meteorology, wrote in a post on Facebook that this phenomenon previously occurred in 1936 during a hurricane affecting Acklins Island in the Bahamas. The same thing happened in Brazil almost 2 weeks after Irma, but advisories for upcoming storms did not mention that the beaches could turn into giant sandboxes. Scientists say the ocean receding phenomenon is due to a huge storm sucking up the waters, building up the storm surge. The Atlantic water receding phenomenon started in August 2017 in Uruguay, then in Brazil, but there were no giant storms off the coast. There is nothing sucking up the water. So why is the water disappearing mysteriously? Where is it all going? It seems that something else, another mysterious ocean phenomenon, is playing a major role in Southern America. When there are no signs of large quakes and tsunamis, weather specialists believe that offshore storms and wind direction may also trigger a similar effect. For example, for Ponta del Este in Uruguay, when there are storms with a south wind, the waters rise and hit the Rambla. The Rambla of Montevideo is an avenue that goes along the coastline of Montevideo, Uruguay. In contrast, when the storms are accompanied by a north wind, the water recedes. But this time, such a giant and widespread ocean receding effect is unprecedented. Around the same time, the sea retreated from the shore at Guaratuba, Brazil. Scientists are still saying it's due to a low-pressure bulge sucking water in from around, owing to some massive storm in the south. Scientists often offer crass explanations when they haven't a clue what's going on. In this case, a cursory check of the weather satellites over the region shows once again this phenomenon started to be observed in mid-August. There was no storm off the coast of Brazil. I found this article on storm surge dated 2005, but there is no mention of water being sucked out of a bay or beach. They only talk about the dangers of flooding due to storm surge from a hurricane. Moving on page 10 of my Google search results, I found an article from 2006 warning of the dangers of tsunamis. Again, no mention of water receding. In another article dated 2011, they mentioned storm surges. The rising water, called storm surge, can submerge low-lying areas and towns along the coast. So here, they actually say that a storm surge can cause rising water, but not the opposite. I did find a new list of most devastating hurricanes and storms, but none mention water receding and only flooding due to storm surge. And a nice little PDF describing the characteristics of a hurricane. Again, no mention of water receding. At this point, I was on page 11 of my search results and really had no more desire to keep clicking the next button. So I decided to check Wikipedia. I called up hurricanes on Wiki and got redirected to tropical cyclones. I did a search on beach and disappear on the entire page, and just for good measure, I searched for the word receding, and there was absolutely no mention of any of these words. So my conclusion is this: if there is no documentation on hurricanes or storms sucking out the water of beaches or rivers, how did they know what to expect after Hurricane Irma? And how is this suddenly a well-known fact, especially in the face of advice already given to the contrary from so-called experts? I guess that's why one person called it a reverse storm surge. How convenient. So here we have an article of a beach in St. Martin where the water has disappeared, no hurricane. This happened in May 2016. They talk about strong winds, but there is a big difference between strong winds and a Category 4 hurricane, don't you think? In 2016, somebody wrote this in the TripAdvisor site comments section. Is it me, or did half of the beach at Maho Beach disappear overnight? I know there isn't much beach to begin with, but based on the view from the webcam, a good portion of the beach seems to have washed away overnight. Anyone else notice this or have an explanation? Around 5 years ago, there were numerous reports of creeks, rivers, lakes and shores just drying up literally overnight on a global scale. One such example was the Pamlico and Noisa rivers in North Carolina and Washington. Even the locals said that this was new. It was not a simple tide in, tide out thing. Neither was it a gradual decline of water like Utah's Great Salt Lake. It was literally happening overnight. According to some sources, this was being dubbed as blow tides. Was the water receding phenomenon due to the winter storm Riley that engulfed the US East Coast? Or was this weird event due to the full moon tides? Either way, this was something new. According to one article, strong northeast winds across eastern Carolina caused some riverbanks to become high and dry. In Washington, the Pamlico River set a new record for the lowest water level. Strong winds pushed the water out. At the Washington boat ramp, the ramp was hardly in any water at all. Similar problems were also occurring in New Bern at both Union Point Park and Lawson Creek Park, where water from both the Noisa and Trent rivers were being pushed out, a totally unusual effect. When this phenomenon of water receding started around the Bahamas during Hurricane Irma in 2017, it was put down to the low pressure of the hurricane sucking up the water as it approached. But then we started seeing water receding in other places, as I've already mentioned earlier, Uruguay, Brazil, Ecuador, and India, where there were no hurricanes in the area at the time. On-point preparedness also confirmed what I thought about the contradictory statements from various media reports and articles. It seems that they are all confused themselves as to what is causing all of these phenomena. So there is a lake up in the mountains of Oregon that disappears every day. Native Americans call this place Cornex Samak, or unknown. The lake drains through a lava tube and just disappears. No one knows where the tunnel leads or where the water goes. Another rare phenomenon occurred on the island of Malta a few years ago, where so-called atmospheric tsunamis, also known as psych waves, are causing flooding within the streets. I remember this when it happened and we were all like, what the frig are psych waves? I don't even know how to pronounce it. It is known also locally as milguba. Something also occurred to me. In 2018, because of the extreme weather, there were many ancient sites or monuments uncovered that may not have been discovered otherwise, at least not in the foreseeable future. That is something to think about. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you on my next video.